What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet, and you're listening to the power of the internet. This is a little podcast thing where at least once a week I come in here and I sit and talk with you, and for this episode, I want to talk about my games of the year. These are the games that came out in 2023, the games I spent the most time with, and I'm going to go in depth talking about these games, whether or not I recommend them, whether or not you should pick them up. If you're looking to spend that Christmas money, if you're looking to spend your Christmas vacation playing something, maybe you'll find a game that you'll enjoy. Now, do yourself a favor. You can pop around down here below and hopefully find a game that you want to hear all about. So let's get right into it. So let me start off this list. And keep in mind, these are not in sequential order from like best to worst. I'm just going to pick the game and talk about it, though I am saving my favorite for the last. So stick around for that one, okay? But let's talk about Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And what is there to be said that hasn't already been said about this game? This is a reinvention of what 2D Mario games are. And it desperately needed to be reinvented. The past few 2D Mario games that I played, Mario U, Luigi U, new Super Mario Brothers on the 3DS, these were just more of the same. And honestly, I found most of them a chore to finish. I just never felt that sense of awe and wonder that I felt when I played the original Mario, Mario 2, Mario 3, Super Mario World. All of that innovation had been lost. And I'll admit that innovation was there for the Mario games, but they were in Mario Maker. Because what they did for Mario Maker is they gave everyone a set of tools that you could use to build whatever you wanted. And people combined those tools to create crazy, wacky, bizarre levels that just did really weird and unique things, right? Well, unfortunately, you didn't really see that in the mainstream games up until Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder took a lot of really straightforward levels, some straightforward concepts, and just laid them out and then gave you the Wonder Seed to completely reinvent that level to do really weird stuff. But I thought more than anything, even with just the basic 2D level stuff, at least we got new mechanics, we got new items, we got new stuff, we got new monsters, we got new designs, we got new and interesting developments. Once you have the Wonder Seeds, though, it turns the level upside down. I mean, quite literally sometimes. It completely changes the goals. Tons of secrets, tons of things to find. And honestly, Super Mario Wonder is a really good name for this game because it is actually wonderful. It's actually just really wonderful to play. I was surprised that I just found infinite joy in almost every single level. Not everything was perfect. The boss levels definitely could have been improved. I feel like there could have been more varied and interesting bosses. But overall, when it comes to the level design and the completionist aspect where you just want to go get everything and find all the exits and find all the levels and find all the seeds, this game had a lot of depth. I also played different ways to play it. You could play it online, which made the game dramatically easier. You could play it single player. You could play it couch co-op. I think all of those things are important for Mario games moving forward. Really, there's no reason not to offer those in Mario games moving forward. But that said, a ton of innovation. And I was there for all of it. It makes me curious as to what the next 2D Mario game will look like, and hopefully it can be even better. I do think they took a lot of inspiration from Mario Maker levels that they saw that were popular. I feel like they took a lot of inspiration from things like, the Rayman games, but that's a good thing. It's not like they stole directly from anything, right? They took inspiration. They took the concepts. They took some of the things that people had done in Mario Maker, or Rayman, or other platformers, amped it up, hyped it up, changed it, made it their own. I'm there for that. So ultimately, Mario Wonder, absolutely wonderful. Put it on your list of games to play. Now this year, I've got not one, but 2 fighting games for you on the list this year, and that is insane. But the first of which is Street Fighter 6, which is, oh my God, so much better than 5. 5 was, for me, a casual player. And keep in mind, when I talk about fighting games, I'm talking about being a casual player. 5 for me was a dumpster fire. Absolutely not what I want from a fighting game. Street Fighter 6, though, was actually really solid. What I want in a fighting game is I want it to be fun to play. I want the mechanics of it to feel fun. And when I do couch co-op, which I do with all of these fighting games, I want to enjoy sitting down next to my friends and beating the heck out of each other and have it feel fun and have it be interesting and cool to see. And I just want it to be weird and goofy and fun. Street Fighter delivered. All of the classic fighters fought pretty much how you expected. Most people who've played one of these games could pick up the controller and figure it out. The mechanics that were there were pretty easy to explain and pretty easy to figure out. But then the other thing I want a fighting game to do is give me a lot of reason to play it so that I get practice, right? You got to give me content outside of just the couch co-op or playing online. I do not like playing online. I get the hell beat out of me. I want to play against computers until I get better, and then I'll take it online, right? Then I'll fight my friends more. Street Fighter 6 did that with its single-player offline mode, also online mode, where you could just go around and explore areas and towns and get involved in quest lines, storylines, and it was all fairly simplistic. At least the character creation was insane. You could make just some of the most bizarre and ugly monsters you could ever want, and you went into online mode and you saw other people's creations hanging around the single-player area. It just added so much depth to it. If I had some complaints, and I do, I felt like there could have been more variety in the fighters. I felt like there could have been more fighters to fight with. You know, I felt like the roster was, for my money, good. It was pretty good. But then there was immediately DLC characters, and it would have been cool to have offered those DLC characters like right up front and then had more characters. I don't know. Every time I play one of these games, I want more for my money. I want more for my money. I'm greedy when it comes to my $70 buy-in. But I got a ton of enjoyment out of Street Fighter 6. I enjoyed the single-player modes. I enjoyed battling against the computer. I enjoyed the arcade modes. I enjoyed seeing everybody's creations in online mode. I enjoyed everything but ranked fighting because I'm never going to be that guy. No matter how much you want me to be, I just can't be. I'm not good at these games. It doesn't click in my brain, but I enjoy jumping and punching and fighting and using the overpower abilities and I don't know, the mechanics here were simple enough for a casual like me. But I don't mind spending my $70 on this particular game as a casual because there was just so much there for the buy-in. Not a bad game. Another fighting game on the top year list. I can't believe it, but Mortal Kombat 1. And again, I'm a huge Mortal Kombat nerd. It is actually kind of disturbing how much I love these games. I remember seeing the very first one in an arcade and seeing all the goofiness back in the 90s when I was growing up. Everyone loved to hate this game. You got your Hillary Clintons, your Tipper Gores, and your Jack Thompson saying how this game was ruining the world, you know. And at that time, video games are considered to be, games for kids. So you can't put these kind of adult things in games for kids. But a lot of us were growing up. A lot of us were ready for more adult themes, We were older teenagers, younger adults. We were ready for this. I remember playing Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat in college. And I remember when I was playing Magic the Gathering in a bar here called the Dart Room in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I remember Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate being there and watching everybody play this game. Again, I'm not good at these games, so I would plug my quarter in and lose my money to somebody who is better at it than me. But I just love to see the fatalities. I love to see the characters. I love to see the backgrounds. I like to see the stage fatalities. I just like all of this stuff. Mortal Kombat 1 is a step back in a lot of ways, which is a shame. First, in terms of rebooting the series, but the series has routinely been rebooted, and in this case, it needed to be rebooted, which I am entirely okay with. I feel like every once in a while, the storyline writes itself into some weird, bizarre corner, and then they've got to hit the reset button, and that's what they did with Mortal Kombat 1. They also, I don't know, I feel like there was less features and less stuff in this version of the game than there was the previous entry, which is fine. They're continuing to add stuff and seasonal content and developments and all of that. It is very much a games as a service, which even if you don't participate in any of that, you're fine. right? You buy the game, you play the single player modes, you do the arcade towers, you play online, you're going to be fine. You don't have to mess with any of the seasons or the unlockables or any of that stuff. They did heavily focus on microtransactions again, which is always so frustrating to me. I want these games to be complete games. It's an interesting balance that they have to try to strike. They want you to continue to play this game. And like I said, when I was talking about Street Fighter 6, I want you to give me a reason to keep coming back. I want new skins and new costumes and new characters and new stuff, right? In the case of Mortal Kombat 1, you do pay for some of it, right? There is definitely paid fatalities and paid skins and paid characters and paid. Not necessarily what I'm looking for, especially after I paid the $70 buy-in. The good news is, because this game was games as a service, it almost immediately went on sale. Only hardcore fans ended up paying the full price for it. You can probably get it for half off right now because they know you're going to make money off of the back end. But even if all you do is play the single player modes, fight other people online, play through the storyline, you'll probably have a really good time doing it. And then the free seasonal content is pretty fun too. Maybe you're the kind of person that feels like you'll buy a fatality pack for $5, for $10. Maybe you're the kind of player that absolutely has to have that cosmetic for $5 or $10. I try to ignore that because it is optional. It's really hard to ignore it in the case of Mortal Kombat 1. They definitely hit you with it as you log in. But the game itself, played well. It's that lockstep, almost turn-based feeling you get from Mortal Kombat. The combos are crazy. The characters are crazy. The blood and the fatalities and everything is crazy. The game is crazy, over the top, gore and violence, which is what I want. And if I have to turn a blind eye to the microtransactions to enjoy that these days, I guess I'll have to. I could do without it, but Mortal Kombat 1 still makes the list regardless. All right, Diablo 4 is on my list. And a lot of people are going to call me an idiot. It'll probably also be on my worst games list. So let me go ahead and start by saying that. I no longer recommend Diablo 4. Do not pick this game up here at the end of the year. Do not pick it up in 2024 unless you can get it for damn near absolutely free. If you're looking to play this type of game, really looks like Path of Exile 2 is going to be the innovator and the most interesting version of the game. However, Diablo 4 during the beta was one of the best times I've ever had. Certainly one of my best times of playing a game this year. The beta was solid and fun, and it felt innovative and interesting, and I played it with my friends and my family. I played it with people who watch me on YouTube. I played it with my roommates. We had so much fun. They would come home from work. We would sit down. We'd start playing. We'd grind for 3 or 4 hours. We did the same thing at the vanilla launch. And I'll be honest with you, we did the same thing with Season 2 as well a little bit. However, there's nothing really that innovative here. The storyline is a Diablo storyline. If you've done one, you probably have a pretty solid idea what they've done with this one, right? You're not going to get your mind melted. It's demons and Herodrums and all of that stuff, and not a lot of angels, unfortunately, which is one of the things I preferred, but whatever. In terms of the itemization, it was kind of mid. It was classic Diablo style. I like it when they put really weird items in there that completely change the way you play your character or your class. We didn't see a lot of that, but as far as the MMO aspect of it with world bosses and stuff like that, that was pretty innovative, and I had a lot of fun doing that, and they gave you tons and tons of reasons to grind, including prestige levels or whatever they called it in this game, where you continue to go past max level to get additional points that you can spend. And they had a cool little grid that kind of reminded me of Materia, but not really, for adding extra abilities and extra stats and extra unlockables. And the seasons looked like they were going to add some pretty unique modifiers and items and things. With the first season, though, they did this thing where they nerfed everything. And this is why it'll also be on the worst game of the year list. That vanilla launch was so promising, and I was so excited for it. And so is most of the internet, and so is most of my friends, and we had so much fun playing it. And then they nerfed everything. They nerfed modifiers. They nerfed your ability to kill monsters. The point of a Diablo game isn't necessarily, oh, the monsters are extra challenging. And there's ways to put challenging things in these games without having to nerf everything. And I'm not just talking about nerf for classes or certain builds. They just nerfed the way certain modifiers worked, certain additions, certain calculations were done, so that it felt like you were just grinding through these monsters for twice as long, 3 times as long as it used to take. These games, to me, specifically a Diablo game, is about loot pinatas. I like to launch into the dungeon. I like to launch into the area. I like to grind through that boss with my friends. I like to click on all the orange items. I like to sort them. I like to figure out which ones are improvements and which ones are getting scrapped. And then I like to go back in and do it again over and over and over again. And I like being able to do that as quick as humanly possible. And in the beta, you could. In vanilla, you could. In Season 1, you absolutely no longer could. I could not believe the potential that was squandered with this game. I guess it's good for the folks making Path of Exile 2, though. But is Diablo 4 as of December of 2023 on my list? No. But the Diablo that we got at launch, the Diablo that we got at beta, that will forever be on my top game list for 2023. What a shame that they chose to do this with their game. Classic Blizzard. Next up, let's talk about what was the Game Awards Game of the Year and a lot of outlets' Game of the Year, and that's Baldur's Gate 3. And I want to just go ahead and say that I put maybe 20 hours into this game, and I have not beat it because you cannot beat it in 20 hours or 40 hours or 100 hours. The depth of this game is ludicrous, and it is so deep that you saw all of these other gaming developers freaking out about how good this game is, how deep it is, and how they could never feel the expectations to do this. Whether it's the storyline, the branching storyline, the way that, just like in Witcher 3, your choices matter and they impact things, and the characters and the voice acting and the deep systems that are all there, there's just a ridiculous amount of stuff here. And it's just done so well. What surprised me that this getting Game of the Year for so many people is it doesn't seem like the kind of broad appeal game that you're going to see. It is very much a Baldur's Gate game. It's very much kind of turn-based, isometric, RPG with the deep systems. Who would have thought that this game could end up hitting the industry the way that it did? It's a niche product. It's a niche style game. I know plenty of people who would pick up a game like this and say to themselves, I hate this. I hate the way this plays. I hate the way this feels. I hate having to figure all this stuff out. But because it is so polished, because it harkens to such Dungeons and Dragons feelings that the Mind Flayers and all the classic, the bards and the rogues and the game systems and the monsters that you love and the beholders and all of that stuff, it's just so good you overlook the fiddly, clicky bits so that you can get through the storyline of the game. And the game does allow you, if you want to play really deep systems and have really challenging battles and up the difficulty, you can do that. If you want to ignore a lot of the systems and just get through it, you have that option as well. It's very much a very diverse game. You can pick it up, you can play it how you want to play it, but it is still, at its core, an RPG, the nerdiest of the nerdiest thing. It is Dungeons and Dragons. It is the thing that so many kids got beat up for getting into when we were in high school. Tell me I'm wrong. I got the hell mocked out of me for liking this stuff, and now it wins Game of the Year for 2023, as it probably should. I genuinely look forward to spending more time with this game. I bought it on Steam. I played it on my Steam Deck. I live streamed it a little bit. It is so overwhelming that even I have not got to Act 2. But it does look like the majority of people who played this game also have not made it to Act 2, certainly Act 3. That's how long and deep this game is. I do hear that as you get further into Act 2 and further into Act 3, the game is less and less polished as you go. It feels clunkier. It is buggier, but that first act is just so polished, and it's so much there. Most people will never see Act 2 or 3 anyway. Let's just be honest. Who has the time? I have a friend who plays video games pretty much constantly. It's almost all he does. Even he said he started over a few times, has never seen Act 3. I don't know if he ever will. But for those of you who look to pick this game up and you like RPG systems and you don't mind the weirdness, clunkiness of it, or if you, God forbid, you enjoy tactical games, if you enjoy deep RPG systems, this is the game for you. My one complaint is I thought this was going to usher in a new renaissance for Dungeons and Dragons, and it should have. Combined with the movie that we got this year as well, those two things should have combined to have made Dungeons and Dragons cool again. Unfortunately, the folks over at Wizard of the Coast who make that game, and Hasbro more specifically, the world has chosen to reject Dungeons and Dragons once again, even with Game of the Year. There's still plenty of people playing it, but it's not the household name that I wish it was. This game could have done that, should have done that. We should all be starting up our own games again. Hasbro kind of ruined that, but Baldur's Gate 3, definitely pick it up at some point. You'll be glad you did if you're into this kind of thing. And you should be. Obviously, Spider-Man 2 was going to be on this list. As a Cape fan, as a Marvel fan, as a DC fan, as a nerd, I was clearly going to be here for Spider-Man 2. I loved the first Spider-Man, regardless of the issues that made it not great, some of the science quests and some of the Mary Jane stuff and all that. Miles Morales, I was there for that, obviously, as well. I liked the buy-in price. It was short, for sure, but I liked what was there. If you smash those two games together and you give me Spider-Man 2, I'm going to be happy. We start first off talking about the Rogues galleries. It's really solid here. I love Mysterio. Give me as much Mysterio as you can. This opening sequence with Sandman, oh my God. It was incredible. And that's exactly enough Sandman. I don't need an entire video game dedicated to him. Kraven the Hunter, can be interesting. Not always interesting in the comics, but can be interesting, right? Venom, though, whoo. And Venom's done pretty well in this one. Honestly, without spoilers, they do it very, very well. So, not everything's perfect about this game. They definitely decided to get on the ground level of, politics to some degree, but that's fine. Plenty of people enjoy that. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but plenty of people do. In terms of the voice acting and the gameplay, and as the game aspect of it, it's just really close to perfection. They made some weird choices that I'm kind of confused about. Like, everyone complained about the Mary Jane levels from the first game. I definitely complained about them. They decided to stick with Mary Jane being a bit of a heroine in this game. Heroine, whatever. They decided to give her, a few training courses. And now she was able to take down a ton of Kraven's men, sometimes a dozen at a time. Which is weird because she's just like a redhead in a sweater with a stun gun, which is wild to me. It really, when you're first presented with Kraven's hunters, you're like, oh, these are the best of the best, and they work for the best of the best. And then she's like, zap, 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 20 of them. Makes you really wonder why Spider-Man and Miles are struggling with all of that. It was a fascinating choice. But regardless, it gives you, for the people who want to see Mary Jane in the game, and you see yourself in Mary Jane, maybe that's fun for you. I don't know. I say myself as Peter, and I like Peter. And honestly, Miles has really grown on me, mostly because of Into the Spider-Verse, the movies, but also in the games. He's been a very fun and interesting character to play. So I don't necessarily like all of the side quests that they put in here. Some of it is just weird, man, bringing back the science levels and the DNA sequencing and stuff like that. I get that they're nerds and they're going to want to do nerdy things, and it is mostly relegated to side quest choices. So if you don't want to do that stuff, you don't have to. You got to go through the Mary Jane stuff. But as for the rest of it, it's mostly a spectacle fighter. And it's a very, very good one at that, with a very solid storyline. And it's just fun to play. I'm very much looking forward to some DLC. I'm very much looking forward to my new Game Plus version of this game. I look forward to playing through this sucker again. Whether it's the suit selection, the combat abilities, the main storyline quest, even some of the side quests, even some of the bonus content, I think it's fantastic. When you look at who the DLC is based off of, it's going to be a hit. It's going to be good. I hope they don't mess it up, but Insomniac rarely ever does. So I hope the Wolverine game is just at least as good as this turned out to be, because this was superb. So Persona 4 Golden came out this year on both Xbox and PlayStation. So I had to go ahead and include this on the list because I put like 100 some hours into it, as you will with any Persona game. And they are not for everybody. But I in case you're skipping over the section, I'm going to talk about remakes, re-releases, golden versions, things along that lines a little bit too, so maybe stick around. But Persona 4 I recommend Persona 5 over 4. I enjoyed 5 considerably more, but 4 is excellent, obviously. If you like Final Fantasy or Persona style RPG tactical stuff with the fairly deep systems and you really unique, weird character design. There's nothing like the character design you'll find in these Persona games. Really, there's not. And also, you want to play a Japanese life sim of a teenage boy for some reason. Congratulations. This is your crossroads of all of those things all in one place. These games are not for everybody, but if you are into that type of thing, if you miss old school Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior or that kind of roleplay, it's definitely here. I never feel comfortable putting remakes on these lists or golden versions or re-releases or whatever on these lists because it just doesn't feel right. But when you get as much gameplay out of it as you did for Persona 4, and Persona 4 was on systems that a lot of us just really did not get a chance to tool around with, I think it's worth recommending. We saw stuff like Resident Evil 4 get, recommended for Game of the Year, and sometimes some people are going to call it their Game of the Year. I'm really beginning to loosen up how I feel about these remakes, re-releases, golden versions, whatever you want to call them, because I know when I go back to play certain games, let's take the original Legend of Zelda. It just doesn't, it's not good, man. The original Legend of Zelda does not hold up. It was so innovative at the time, and it's fun to play still now, but it doesn't hold up to my memory of it. These remakes, these re-releases give a whole new generation a chance to play these games, and the games can often feel and look the way you remember them. So if they remake the original Legend of Zelda, the NES version, it'll probably make my list one day. And that's why I'm easing up on that a little bit for my personal choice. I know nobody really cares, except me. It's just a thing I've chosen to do, and I'm choosing not to do it anymore. You can put remakes on my Games of the Year list, and Persona 4 is on there. It's well worth it, especially since it's free on Game Pass. It's probably well worth the download if you're interested in this type of gameplay. I'm also breaking the rules by putting some DLC on this list. Is that okay? I think a lot of people, when I say that, are going to expect me to put the game God of War DLC on here. Have not gotten a chance to sit down and play it yet. I did get a chance to play Return to Castlevania, which is DLC for a game called Dead Cells. And if you did not play Dead Cells back when it was extra epic viral because of all the issues going on around this game, you probably should. It's a fairly affordable game. If you are into this kind of twitchy action RPG setup with roguelike elements, I think you'll really enjoy this game by itself. If you're a Castlevania fan, it was cool to just see Castlevania stuff again, and it just fits really well with Dead Cells. I feel like, I've never heard him say it, but I feel like Dead Cells was probably somewhat inspired by Castlevania based on the gameplay and based on the overall look. So it was a very nice little mesh up. I did feel there wasn't as much DLC as I would have liked. I felt like it could have I think it could have been its own standalone game, if I'm being honest with you, and I would have liked that considerably more. But it gave me a reason to go back and revisit Dead Cells. I went ahead and created a brand new game, started fooling around with it, got back into the systems, learned the game again, beat some bosses, and then started grinding away at the Castlevania branches whenever I had the opportunity to do it. And I'll just be honest, I think you'll be glad you did. It plays really, really well. It's a good reason to go back and play some Dead Cells. It definitely plays way more like Dead Cells than Castlevania. So, if you're looking for classic Castlevania gameplay, it's not exactly there. It feels way more like Dead Cells. But it is well worth noting that this came out, and it was a lot of fun, and you might want to look into it. It gives you a reason to dust off that game you played all those years ago. And then finally, let's get into my Game of the Year, which, if I'm being honest with you, is probably going to be one of my games of a lifetime. and that's Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And look, if you know anything about me, you're not going to be surprised as to why this is one of my all-time favorite games. And I have to get into a bit of a history lesson to really explain why Tears of the Kingdom is as good as to me as it is. It's also just objectively an incredible game, and you should play it. But I played the original Legend of Zelda, the NES version, when I was a kid, and that game changed my life. It made video games my entire personality. I said to myself, I want this to be my future. I want to explore worlds like this and play games like this forever. And now here we are 30-some years later, and I have successfully done that now. When Breath of the Wild came out, it felt, to me, the same feeling of being launched into an open world to explore it and figure it out myself. It felt like the original NES did. And I played through Breath of the Wild over and over and over again, about once every year since that game came out, in anticipation of this, Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom takes that exact same exploration, and after some, in my opinion, probably overly long tutorials on how the new systems and things are going to work, they launch you into this world to go where you want to go and do what you want to do and explore it the way you want to explore it and solve these puzzles and dungeons the way you want to solve them. Except at this time, as compared to the previous game, there's actual dungeons to explore. There's actual bosses to fight that are more varied and diversified. The final fight is so much better, but it's also just by definition an excellent boss fight by itself compared to every other boss fight, not just in the other Zelda games, but in every game all time. So I think what makes this game so good is, and why it will replace Breath of the Wild as one of my all-time favorite games, is most of the content from Breath of the Wild is kind of here. There's plenty of things that are missing, right? But the overworld map that you're used to is there. There's new shrines. The old shrines are gone. They've been replaced, but the new shrines are more interesting and more innovative anyway. I wouldn't want to have done the old ones again. When it comes to the Guardian powers, you lose those, but you get so much more in terms of all the engineering, technical marvel stuff that you can figure out. There's so many different ways to solve every quest, every dungeon, every experience, every obstacle, everything. Then on top of that, you've got an underworld map that's fully explorable, about the same size as the original overworld map. Then you've got the air map, which is so much more interesting in a lot of ways as well, because it's got these air islands with their unique boss fights and unique puzzles and unique experiences and stuff you're not going to find anywhere else. It's just kind of crazy. It's just kind of crazy how much content is actually there, and I cannot believe it. If I had to have some complaints about this game, the fact that it's on the Nintendo Switch, which is a very aging system now at this point, they push it to its limits. It looks absolutely fantastic, but it could look so much better on a new system, and hopefully they will release it on a new system with a new patch that looks even better by the time I'm ready to replay through it. I would complain about the fact that I lost 100+ hours on this game, but it was at a very good time. I needed this game at the time. It really gave me something to do, really gave me something to crawl into, really sink my teeth into. And I'm already itching, watching this gameplay as I record this, I'm itching to play through it again. I might go boot it up again and lose another 100 hours. What made this game, I think, so interesting was just the systems that they put into place when it came to gluing parts together and creating these engineering pieces. I like the fact that they're teaching kids about engineering. If you put this thruster onto this board, onto this thing, with this treadmill, with this chainsaw, you can create this machine. You can build some of the most elaborate things, mechs and robots and rocket launchers and air vehicles and ships and boats and all. It's insane. You don't have to play that game this way, though, if you don't want to. You can just play it as a straightforward RPG as well. But all of those systems are there for you. As optional as they may or may not be, all of the systems are there for you, and they are innovative and fascinating. If I were to change one thing about this game, if you only let me change one thing, it would be that the tutorial was overly convoluted and kind of annoying. But that's true of every Nintendo game. I was expecting him to hold my hand considerably less in this game. If you buy this game and you find yourself on the tutorial island getting frustrated and irritated, know that the game goes from this very narrow hallway to a insanely open field when you get off of that tutorial island. And hey, who's to say there aren't faster ways off that tutorial island if you check those speedrunners? They'll teach you how to do it if you absolutely cannot stand it. But what an incredible game. Easily my game of the year. And I suspect as time progresses, it will remain on one of my favorite games of all time. Absolutely. Pretty close to perfection. So there you go. There's my games of the year for 2023. Can you tell that I'm fighting off COVID right now? Boy, you can see the fever in my cheeks, can't you? But hopefully, if you made it to the end of this video, you're aware of it now. But hopefully I sounded okay. Hopefully I looked okay. I really just wanted to record today. It's been about a week since I sat down to record with you guys, and I just wanted to spend a little time with you, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you had a wonderful 2023. I hope you had a wonderful holidays. I'm looking forward to this new year and looking forward to sharing it with you. Now, let me know. The key word is the word game. What game did you play this year that was your favorite? What game did you hate? We will do a worst games of the year list as well, so be prepared for that. I look forward to recording that with you guys as always. But let me know what game you enjoyed or what you didn't enjoy this year, and I'll know you made it all the way to the end of this episode of Power of the Internet. As always, subscribe if you haven't. Drop a like if you haven't already. I really hope you have. Check out all those links in the doobly-doo if you want to support me, support the show. Keep it coming back. And as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I will speak with you again soon.